All right, I'd like to call the meeting of March 21st, 2023 to order. Seth, you would like to start with the roll call?
President Brennan.
Here.
Councilwoman Fry.
Here.
Councilman Hanna.
Here.
Councilman Ondo.
Here.
Councilman Stein.
Here.
Councilman Bodadian.
Here.
Councilman Youngkins.
Here.
Mayor Foss.
Here.
One's here, sir.
Thank you. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. PJ, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we're going to start with our presentation first, okay? That way we can get this out of the way and everyone can enjoy your presentation. Would you introduce yourself to everyone?
Of course. My name is Acadia Klein. I live in Pittsburgh, and I am a member of Passive House Pennsylvania. We are part of the Passive House Network, which is a national nonprofit dedicated to the education and promotion of passive house building techniques. And I have a hopefully 10-minute, not too long presentation to explain to you all what that is and why it's important and something for your consideration as you all are public servants and as you move forward with building projects, something to consider.
Okay.
So like I said, hopefully this will just be a short 10-minute presentation to give an overview of what Passive House is and why we think it's so important to consider as we move forward with new building projects. Okay, so like I said, my name is Acadia Klein. I am with Passive House Pennsylvania. I live here in Pittsburgh, and we are part of a national organization that promotes passive house buildings. I'm here to talk about buildings, about building them, improving them, and why they're important, and how we can make them better. Starting with a question, why are buildings so important? We spend 90% of our time indoors. The building industry is connected to 40% of global carbon emissions. That's a huge proportion of total emissions overall. Building utility costs are too high. Energy insecurity is growing. Buildings are often, not all the time, but often unhealthy and are making us sicker and poorer, driving greater social inequity. Buildings can be unsafe when the power goes out. So if we were to imagine the perfect building, whether that's your home, your school, your kid's school, where you work, how would you describe it? Does anybody want to shout out some adjectives?
Secure.
Secure. Yep.
Inefficient.
Efficient.
Inefficient.
Inefficient. The perfect building is inefficient?
Oh, you said that? Oh, okay. I didn't see the perfect building. Oh, okay.
Yes, most of.
Yeah, very efficient. Sure.
Sure.
Comfortable.
Comfortable. Exactly. These are all exactly the terms that we describe our perfect building, where we're going to spend 90% of our time. To expand on the suggestions you guys threw out here, the perfect building would be warm in winter and be cool in the summer. Doesn't seem like it's asking too much. It would be not drafty. You know, we've got a lot of old buildings and that's not always the case. Perfect building would have low energy bills and use little to no fossil fuels, affordable to build and operate, healthy and comfortable and free from outside allergens, smoke, soot, mold, bugs. It would also be resilient and allow you to shelter safely in place during extreme weather power outages. This is something that Pittsburgh is, in the area, is getting a taste of, and lots of other areas are seeing more and more right now. perfect building would also be quiet, quiet and comfortable. Be peaceful. And, you know, these are all some really great adjectives to describe buildings. It's not an imaginary building. These things can all happen in the same place, and it's a passive house building. This is the first passive house building that was built in Germany in the 90s. And real quick, the term passive house, that is the name of the organization, but this doesn't refer to just houses. This refers to any kind of building can be a passive house building. So what is a passive house building? How do you define it? Passive house is the world's most rigorous building efficiency building standard. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of LEED performance for buildings. Passive house way outperforms LEED. It can be used in new construction and renovations. It can be historic, traditional, or modern and sleek. It can be used in single-family homes, office buildings, skyscrapers, apartment buildings. It can be used in any climate. So what makes a passive house building? There are 5 principles. The first 4 are, as the name suggests, passive. They are part of the building and they do not require any adjusting, any fussing. The first one is continuous insulation on the outside of the building. The building envelope is what separates the interior of a building from the outside. Continuous insulation helps maintain that steady indoor temperature with little heating or cooling, kind of like a fancy thermos or cooler, like those Yeti ones. Those have really great continuous insulation. Our buildings can have that too. The type and amount of insulation depends on the climate that you're in, kind of like another fancy climate rated sleeping bag. The second principle is airtightness. An airtight enclosure keeps cold air outside in the winter and warm and humid air outside in the summer, while protecting the indoor occupants from pollutants like smog, smoke, and allergens. It also prevents drafts that cause discomfort and energy loss. So again, trying to relate this back to something a little bit more familiar. This is like putting on a windbreaker over a sweater. That's the idea of airtightness in our buildings. Principle number 3, thermal bridge-free construction. Typical buildings have breaks in the insulation at different construction joints. These are called thermal bridges. The most common one is when you have a balcony. That's a thermal bridge when you have the structure on the outside coming through the insulation to the structure on the inside. Window frames, intersections of walls and roofs can be thermal bridges. These cause drafts, condensation, and related moisture damages. And you know, as the name implies, it increases the heating and cooling needed. So this is a picture of a renovation that was done on a building. When we ensure the continuous insulation is unbroken and eliminating thermal bridges, this is a view of the temperature of the outside of a building and what temperature is coming out, and you can see that when you do this renovation, it's coming out a little bit at the windows and not at the opaque walls, which is important. Speaking of windows and doors, that's the 4th principle of passive house, is high performance windows and doors. Yes, these are expensive, but they make a big, big difference. Passive house windows are typically triple pane. They are windows and doors in a typical building are huge holes in the enclosure that undermine that performance. The triple glazing, the triple pane glass really helps that. So they can be optimized to benefit from solar gains in the winter while minimizing heat gains in the summer to decrease cooling needed. Passive house principles also rely on sun shading devices on the outside of further decreasing those solar gains in the summertime. Part of that is being able to use all of your space comfortably, being able to sit right next to a window on a winter day and enjoy that space in your home, in your office, wherever you may be. And then the 5th principle of passive house is the one that's not passive, but it is this idea of fresh air ventilation with heat recovery. With passive house buildings, of course, you can open the windows. but we can't depend on natural ventilation alone, because opening windows and doors is often not helpful with outside pollution, noise, or because it's too hot or cold outside. So all buildings that are Passive House have mechanical ventilation. Passive House buildings are just much more robust in providing 100% filtered and clean fresh air at all hours during the day. This means that there's fewer allergies, less asthma, more healthy people in healthy buildings. Passive House is the greenest of green building standards, if that's what you're looking for. It's 5 principles that we just went over, can ensure that heating and cooling loads can be reduced up to 90%. That allows for flexible design, and it ensures healthy indoor air and provides affordability for its occupants. This dramatic energy savings means that Passive House buildings are ideal to electrify with just heat pumps. Those are something that have been in the news a lot lately. Highly efficient. And Passive House is all over the world right now. We're working to increase that number here in the United States and here in Pennsylvania. This is the basic methodology. It can be functional, it can be beautiful, it can be anything you want it to be. Passive House can be a game changer, but more of us need to be a part of it. And in Massachusetts and California and beginning in New York as well, Passive House is starting to creep into state legislation when they're talking about state-funded projects or projects of a certain size need to be Passive House certified. So it is happening, it has started here in the US, and we're just hoping to bring this word to as many of you folks as possible who are involved in your civic duties here to just keep that communication going. And if anybody has any questions on this, I would be more than happy to answer them or just have this conversation with you all. So if you're doing renovations to an existing building or planning to build new, please consider utilizing Passive House. If your community is adopting sustainability goals for public buildings and private developments, consider adopting Passive House. And if you're hiring building professionals, consider requiring that they get certified Passive House training. The goal here is to build a world that's healthy and equitable and sustainable, and Passive House can help with those things if we all do it together. So thank you for your time. I know I raced through this a little bit, and if you're interested in more, please check out this QR code. You can scan that with your phone. I'd be happy to pass on my contact information, and I really appreciate you all taking the time to listen.
When you build a new one of them buildings, the Passive House, as far as building them, I can see you remodel the older ones. As far as building a new one, how sturdy are they against, I see it's all over the country, how sturdy are they to weather conditions, hurricanes, tornadoes, and so forth?
The type of construction and the structure of the building wouldn't change at all. And so the big advantage of them is when a power outage occurs. There was a case in outside of New Orleans where there was a Passive House apartment building, and in one of the hurricanes, power just went out everywhere. And even though they lost power, everybody was able to maintain the temperature in their house, or in their apartment rather, for like 3 or 4 days because it was so well insulated that the temperature, that they weren't relying on electricity to keep the house or the apartment comfortable and at a livable temperature. So that's one thing, it's a little bit more resilient, but the building and the construction of it wouldn't change at all from a just a house, Ryan Holmes house that would be planned otherwise.
So you have no say-so in how it's built, right?
What's correct to some extent. I mean, what's exciting about Passive House is that it's just a performance standard. It's not prescriptive. It doesn't tell you how to do it. It just has these goals of a certain amount of energy per square foot, and if you can achieve that goal with using those principles, then you've achieved it. You can use any kind of insulation you want, any kind of air barrier that you want. Nobody's telling you how to build it exactly, it just wants to achieve these goals.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions on passive house? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on. Seth and I have been quite busy on some things, and I wanted to just ask the mayor, we went over a couple of things at the workshop. We're gonna start some meetings up for,
Memorial Day to start with. And
right?
we'd like to eventually, maybe next week Memorial Day, we can try to set up a date for a community day meeting following,
Do we have a set date for the community day
We do
meeting?
not,
Okay, but we do have a set date for the Memorial Day meeting.
yes.
Seth, do you have that date with us? So we can announce that with everyone?
Let me see if I have in my notes.
I think it's important that we start with our community day plans and get them started. Thank you. And, that's someone's phone that you
Seth, do you want the Memorial Day planning meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is Tuesday, the 28th, March 28th. And the actual Memorial Day will be Monday, May 29th.
6:30 is the time of our meeting, I think we decided last week.
So, I think that will be important. And also, we need to start really planning and getting involved with the community for community days. I was thinking about trying to do something on Main Street this year. Maybe having, closing the Main Street down. We'd have to work with the police department and the fire department on doing such a thing. And I don't know what our response is from council, but I think we want to try and do something maybe just a little bit different. It doesn't have to be on a large scale, but maybe in conjunction with the business owners up on Main Street and throughout Munhall. And I'm trying to get some feedback from everyone. So I'd like everyone to really start thinking about it, because I think we need to start working to promote our businesses on Main Street and through our town. And working with and being on the enterprise zone, I think that we're being left behind a little bit through all the planning that the enterprise zone does. They stimulate, they try to stimulate their bar businesses and restaurant businesses down there with giving them monies to help fund paying for bands and entertainment down there, which I really don't feel that's part of the enterprise zone's, what do you want to call it? Yeah, it's not their purpose.
It shouldn't be.
So I think all the communities have a responsibility to work together and to try and promote each other's towns and our towns. So I'm really looking for some input on that. I think we really need to do that. I'm also, I've been under the understanding that the police have basically cleaned out the borough building, our old municipal building. They're pretty much done there. And I believe that Public Works is still working on that, or they're pretty close.
There, the first half of the lower level of the basement, as you, right up until you get into the boiler room area, is cleaned out. A lot of the stuff, obviously, on the police side of the basement's cleaned out. In the admin area, all that's really left to do is have some stuff moved and a little bit of clean out in my office.
Okay.
So we're not too far off. The biggest thing is going to be actually taking the inventory and the proper pictures of the pieces that we're looking to sell,
And
as
so-
well as removing all the boxes that is an agenda item for tonight that can be
Well,
destroyed.
that's where I'm referring to a little bit on this, is to motion number 7, where we're going to be destruction of municipal records. We need to be pretty careful on what we are going to destroy. We do need to save all of our historical documents that we have, and I'm sure that we're going to do that.
Yes.
Also, we need to repurpose our municipal building over there. And the more I talk to people, I'm asking people, what are your feelings on the old municipal building? And people do not want that building to be destroyed, knocked down. So we need to repurpose it. It is our responsibility as council to do that. The public does not want to see it made into a parking lot.
Does the public want to pay for it?
Well, we'll see.
Are we gonna,
That's a big question.
And you know what? We will see.
are we gonna think about a referendum or something? Let's see if the public wants to pay for it?
Well, first thing I think we need to do is make it a historical building and give it a historical status.
I tried that. You can't do it until there's a date to be destroyed.
Really?
I already called them when, before I was in council and they were talking about destroying it. I, called it.
Okay.
And they
Well-
said that once there's a date for it to be tore down, then they talk about making it a historical landmark.
So, you know, I've been in many homes in our town, and I can tell you one thing right now, that a clean home does wonders. So I think our first project our first action is to just have a general cleanup in that building. If we're not gonna even clean the building up, shame on us. We need to have at least the responsibility to go through that place, clean everything up, like you said, earmark what we're gonna get rid of, and designate what we're gonna keep. And I've not seen a paintbrush used in that building since I've been on council, so.
Which ones?
Then
Yes, sir.
What,
Go back to the historical part of the building. We thought the fire department made it a historical building. And we contacted, well, PJ can probably answer the questions better than I can, if you want to let him speak on that a little bit.
Sure, I'd love to hear what you did. Which fire hall is that, number 1?
Yeah,
Well, it's certainly a historical building.
pardon me?
It certainly is a historical building. And is it rated historical now?
Yeah.
So, that conflicts to what you're saying.
That's what
They
historical
didn't tell us
landmarks.
nothing like that as far as,
It took me about 2.5 years to go through the Pittsburgh Historic Landmarks Foundation. A lot of back and forth with how the building was originally built and what it ended up as. I mean, we had to change with the times, going from a horse-drawn, wagon to the equipment we have now. So we had 2 dual archways in the front of the building that were removed because you can't fit an 8-foot plus wide fire truck through a 7-foot wide door. It just doesn't work. So we had to argue that point, and with the supporting Senator Costa, I think Gergley at the time, there was a few guys that wrote support letters showing, hey, there was a significant part of having that building, Munhall's first fire station. There was different ties to the community somehow. We found a lot of stuff. You can show all that, you can document all that. It's a long, lengthy process. But I'm assuming that with that building, from what I've seen in, from Mark Fallon's page, I think that had the pictures of it being built, that building hasn't changed.
It has not changed.
So, can you do it? It possibly. There's a lot of legwork. Like I said, 2.5 years it took us to get that designation, and I'm pretty proud of that.
So Dave, not to interrupt you, but Dave, I want you and I to work on that project. Let's take that undertaking and see it and initiate and start doing some contact phone calls and see what we can come up with. Again, all right?
Gentlemen, if I may, there's the State Historical Museum Commission, which is who's in charge of it, and they have everything that you need to know how
Awesome.
to do that. This is not something, and nothing against, the knowledge that you get from going through it and in like getting the letters and working with the legislators, absolutely. But they've got everything that you essentially need to do. I haven't reviewed through all of it,
Awesome.
but
Well,
it'll give you all
Seth, you
those
can
guidelines.
work with Mr. Youngkins and myself on that and help us then. Because
Shouldn't we, see what it's gonna cost to fix it? Just-
no matter what, I think we need to have.
I understand we need to fix it, but we need to know what we're gonna ask the people to help pay for.
But if you get the designation.
You're against it, Dave? You wanna stop that?
No, I'm not against it.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure the people know what it's gonna cost, so they can make the decision, decide if they wanna have a referendum where they pay a little bit more in taxes to help it, because it's been neglected so long.
Well, there are other ways to do things other than
fine.
raising taxes.
I understand
We
that.
certainly can ask our state representatives for help in saving an old building as well, don't you think?
You may also want to talk to the Heinz History Center, Andy Macis, I think his name is. He may have some, he's usually pretty helpful. He may have some input he could help you out with on that.
Okay.
But doesn't giving a building the designation of a historic landmark allow it not to be demolished?
Depends on the,
Isn't that?
I'm not sure.
it depends upon the status of the building. Our building is a local one through the Pittsburgh History and Landmarks Foundation, which recognizes it through the state of Pennsylvania. There is a national one. In order for a national tie to get put down, like Carnegie Library is Pittsburgh, right? It's a Pittsburgh historic landmark. The Pump House couldn't get the actual, when I talked with them, they couldn't get their historic landmark status because they added on to the original Pump House. That's not the original one. The original one is half of that building. So in order to obtain it, you can get the local one, which is probably obtainable by really showing that there's community support behind getting that. That was the reason why you had the legislatures push that. Then you have a national one. Could I tie that Andrew Carnegie gave money to my fire department? If I could read the minutes and pull some stuff out back then yes, I could tie that to a national level, and we would have a national historical building in Munhall. I can't find that tie yet. However, obtaining the national one is way harder, which would actually then prevent the building from ever being torn down. The local one, you have to go through a lot of different meetings and everything else to do anything with the building. There's a lot of reviews and planning commissions and all that other stuff with that, but nothing's preventable. I mean, we have the cell phone tower on our building. It had to go through back to Pittsburgh History and Landmarks. They had to approve it to make sure that, the tower met what was close to being on that building at the time. And it did, it's close. We had a big hose tower in the building when it was first built back in 1901. So the tower that's on there now, as it looks kind of crappy, it still serves its purpose and it's still the same size and dimensions of what was originally there. So again, it doesn't prevent it, but it also makes it harder to go through the whole process. So it's something good to have, but you have to show that community support.
Interesting.
I think to really push that hard.
I'm sure we can get the support from the people of the town. I'm sure. It's just, and I'm certainly not going in this thing, not looking at the costs. Costs can be achieved and things can be done. It doesn't cost a lot of money to clean the inside of that building and start.
But there's also funding available for historic landmarks as well. You have to find it and work hard towards it, but there can be grant opportunities available.
I'm sure there is. I'm just bringing this up because
Non-matching.
it's terrible to let that thing sit any longer. And as far as I'm concerned, it's our duty to really start pushing this thing and start seeing what we can get done. And that's what I want to talk about. That's one of the topics I wanted to talk about tonight.
Okay, what if somebody buys that building and redoes the whole inside? Make it into offices or something, would that go against the historic part?
Again, it's so like with our department, if we have to do any changes on the inside, it has to be sent back down to Pittsburgh Historical Landmarks. They have to review our changes. They have to approve it, and then we can go through and make any changes. Same thing with over there. Once you have that designation, it's based upon the building as it currently sits.
Well,
So,
first thing we all have to realize is our fire department is still in there. And we are still actively using the building. It is still Munhall Borough's property. It's still a part of Munhall. I don't think we should have took the sign off the building, to be honest with you. That's my feeling. But it's gone right now. We need to repurpose the building, and we certainly do not want the fire hall disbanded and thrown out of that building. We want to keep them there until time and money comes into effect where we're going to actually build a new fire hall possibly. So, and I don't see that happening in the next 5 years myself. I honestly don't. So, that being said, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and with Jamie Glasser, you know, we can ask her if this is what we're looking to do, what she can find grant money wise. Because there might be grant money out there that
Well,
could help us also.
We certainly can look.
And also too, if you remember, you and I went to, was that in Carnegie? Was it
Yes.
Carnegie?
No, it was in, what's the name?
Crafton.
Didn't they just tear that down?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
They had a miniature Munhall Borough building there.
It was
And
like
we toured it.
half the size, yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if they tore it down or not.
They just added on, not added on, but they built a bridge from the building to the building that they had purchased behind it. Remember?
Yeah, it's tied into their
It's tied in, yeah.
their library, where they have an entertainment hall there. I don't know what they've done with it.
But there was six of that design. 6 replicas. Now, one may be bigger, one may be smaller, one may be the same, you know, but there's 6 that whoever the engineer or an architect was, he actually, no, where they're all at, don't have a clue.
And one thing I'd like to find would be the plate. There should have been an actual plate for that building. We've never seen it. You know, a stamp, a plate, dated, built, dedicated.
The cornerstone.
Yeah, somewhere. So in your travels, if you see it, Seth, keep an eye peeled for it. Yes.
I have another comment. But I know in past meetings, you guys talked about doing a strategic plan for the next several years, 5, 10 years ahead. I don't know if you follow, I would think that would be part of your strategic plan, to put that in, whether what you want to do with that or not. But, and I don't know if you follow other municipalities' social medias, but Jefferson Borough last summer did a survey to all their residents that was a long, detailed survey for a potential strategic plan for their next 10 to 20 years. And they did the survey borough-wide. I think that's what you should think of before you just go out and say, hey, we want to raise this money to fix a building that, what are you going to use it for when you fix it?
That's a good point.
Do a survey, put a survey together that talks about the old buildings, that talks about parks and recreation, that talks about paving the streets, that talks about businesses coming in.
So,
Do something like that. Go on Jefferson's Facebook page and you can print the survey.
so just to speak on the strategic plan, Seth, when is our strategic plan meeting that we just set last meeting?
Our initial meeting will be April 25th.
April 25th. So at that meeting, let's talk about maybe doing a, what do you call it, a survey?
Survey.
Hmm? Okay.
And then, I mean, you know, like you may, I don't know what you'd get back with the survey, if you mail, I don't even know how many residents are here that you would mail, households you would mail it to. But say even if you mailed it to 1,000, maybe you'll get 100 back. Based on the attendance at council meetings, you might not even get any back.
Might not.
But at least you're putting it out there for people to make a point, like Dave referenced doing a referendum. on a vote. I mean, that comes down to how many people vote too.
Well, and I'm just gonna repeat what council people have known, and going door to door, knocking on people's doors and talking to people. They do not want to see that borough building demolished, destroyed. They want to see it kept in place, and I've talked to many people, and I'm going to start talking to people again. They do not want to see it demolished. They want to see it either repurposed. There's still people that don't even know we're in this building yet. So that's the truth of the matter. That is true. So I'm going to move on for my president's report. Just wanted to speak on a couple items. I'd like to get some input from the public on community days. It would be great to have. I want this, we should post all these on our internet, these meetings, which I'm sure they are, and ask for people to have input and attend the meetings, the public meetings.
The community day last year, I think the location was great because you had parking access at the high school. You could walk to it, and it wasn't walking traffic like you said, shut down Main Street. I think that would be easier on the police and everything, but that was an excellent location.
It poured down rain.
Well, you can't, nobody can control the weather, but if it was on Main Street.
Just remembering.
If it
Anyway,
was on Main Street, it'd get wet too.
That's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts, and that's what I was maybe hoping to change things up a little bit.
I know
That's all.
they mentioned that last year too, but I think what you picked last year worked out well.
Okay, well,
You know, we brought that up, nothing Rob even remembers, about doing it on Main Street. It didn't go over so well.
A lot of the Main Street businesses did complain at that time, so, I mean, we would really, if we're gonna do it on Main Street, we gotta work with them and, you know.
well, if we don't do
on the
that,
timing and everything.
I think we should still work with them and still have,
Well, we can promote the businesses on Main Street.
still have, Friday nights, have a Friday night on Main Street.
I agree.
So, if we don't do anything at all, people say you just don't do anything. You're not doing a thing. So, we need to start being a little more proactive.
Yeah, we'll get some Main Street, we'll get some businesses together, there's other.
What do you think, Mayor? Are you ready?
We're ready.
All
There's
right.
other thing, I know one of the things that may work is, on Main Street too, is maybe not community, but maybe something to promote the businesses and,
Well, that's what
maybe a little art show or something.
That's what I
There's
just
a lot
said.
of starving artists around that maybe they could come up and sell and,
yeah, we could
but
do.
they do good entertainment. Main Street may work better on a Sunday, because we have, with the two funeral homes there, we're always gonna have a little problem with a funeral possibly on Main Street.
Well, I don't want to do it down there. I
But not
want to do
that
it further up.
Okay.
Further up. We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll
We'll talk
definitely
about
talk.
it.
Mike,
So- I'm gonna, I've had enough time. I'm gonna go to ask for the mayor's report. now.
Okay. Mine didn't be too long, but one thing, the chief just gave me today, they had an interview today for a candidate for a crossing guard position, which we need. And this will be a full-time position, not a full-time, but they'll be there every day. But one thing I would like to see, that the chief likes a candidate there, and but we still need to have the clearances and the background checks done. Is there any way that we could add a motion on tonight to hire this crossing guard upon the background check and the clearances of the Act 33 and 34?
Did you interview this person?
I did not, the
I
chief did.
Okay. I
I guess
got,
we'd get them on a lot sooner than waiting for next month, if possible, if we could do that.
council, what's your thoughts?
I don't have any problem with it.
I thought we were allowed to do a motion if it didn't involve money. You know what I mean? Like, you could bring something up as long as it wasn't involving money. Now, I guess it would be involving money because we'd be,
They're
but
salaried
we're
employee, right?
replacing the person who,
So
is
that would
already in
be,
the budget.
that would be a question for our solicitor then.
Okay.
But it's also a safety concern if there's a need for a crossing guard. It's not a significant amount of money. If you were making $1 million purchase, I'd say absolutely don't do it. But something like this, it's a small amount, and it does address the safety issue for the children. So legally, it's fine. You make a motion to amend the agenda, add that motion, and you can do it.
having walked to school for a very large portion of my life, crossing guards have literally saved my life numerous times in numerous places. And the faster that you can get one up there, the better, because trust me, people do not watch for kids. Like, the faster that you can get a crossing guard where they need to be, the better, because there's so many kids that walk because we don't have buses.
And not just that, kids are kids. Kids walk out in the street, they walk, you know, there was just someone that was, one of the kids was run over, they walked right out into the street.
Like, no disrespect to the police officers or anything, but like, you need someone up there full time. Like, it just.
They need an adult there
Yeah.
to say, hey.
I mean, we have an open location right now, which we're filling with, imagine, an officer, right?
Yes.
And that's, so the savings will be there. We're not paying an officer to go up. So
I understand.
I'd just like to see that added tonight if we can.
So you would like the motion to be to hire the person based upon them passing their clearances?
Absolutely.
Yes.
There we go.
And a few other things, the Munhall Cleanup Day is this Saturday. You know, you can sign up and do the cleanup online if you, I mean, not online, you can't do a cleanup online. You can sign up and register online to be a part of the cleanup. PJ is one of the captains down by the fire hall, by his fire hall, and I'll be out there cleaning up.
Are they still
Also-
gonna do that with the weather? I know they were planning on a rain date, but it's
Rain
supposed
date
to
was,
be,
I think, Sunday.
you might wanna clarify that, because it's supposed to be pretty nasty
Yeah.
on Friday and Saturday.
I mean, I'm sure we'll be ready to cancel, you know, when we see the weather is bad and get a rain date. We're not gonna risk anybody going out there and get people sick.
You already got some help from the county, because I just watched them clean up West Front Road today.
Oh, did they? Great. And the Munhall Cares Group has also, it's on Facebook. They have also have an event where they're putting together for Easter, an Easter egg hunt. They did make arrangements to have it down on West Homestead because they are trying to branch out a little bit into the whole Still Valley area. They're gonna have it, I'm failing on the name, I should know the name of the field. Calhoun. So that's gonna be done at Calhoun on April 1st. And this is really a great band, the Munhall Community Band, even though we don't have them performing in Munhall a lot. And I'd love to have them here for Community Day this year. But they gave me this and asked me to promote it. I put a couple flyers back there. They're having a performance at the First Presbyterian Church of Edgewood. It'll be this weekend on March 26, 2023. And this band is really good. I mean, they do everything from classics to the Beatles and you know, they're really good and they're worth seeing if you haven't seen them. And we had them booked for Community Day last year, but because of the rain, they weren't able to play. They were a little bit too big to keep them all covered from the little bandstand that we had.
Mayor, I heard that you were singing backup with this group. Is that true?
I don't think they'd want me to, but
Just thought I heard.
I didn't know the karaoke, you know, upon request, but that's not very good either.
Why don't they do a show at the high school?
You know what, they have tried to talk to the high school and the library, and I would love to see them do a show. Anyway, we can do a show at the Batch Foundation, can we? That would be a good idea. Maybe, I mean, I don't know how, at the gym in the Batch Foundation and set up, because that would probably be that big of a crowd. You want to pick up flyers on the way out, maybe they can do a show at the Batch Foundation, too. But they're very good. I was quite impressed when I saw them. And, trying to think if I have anything else for my mayor's report, I think, oh, yes, the High School Musical. And we have a performer for the musical right here, so I'll let her tell you a little bit about the musical.
So, Steel Valley Drama's production this year is The Little Mermaid. It is next weekend. It opens Thursday. It is March 29th, 30th, and 31st. It's 7:30. And then that Sunday, it is at 2 p.m. My best friend is Ariel and I'm Ursula, so that's kind of fun. So yeah, it's a really good show. I'm not gonna lie, and it's not just because I'm in it, but it's really good. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for kids/students. Yeah, so come to the musical. Also, you can buy your tickets online at the SV Drama site on Facebook. and you can buy them online and at the door, so yeah, come see these.
Do you have a flyer for that?
Not on me, but I can get them to you.
Could you email him one up maybe? You know, to
Probably.
the Match Foundation?
Yeah, I can post
Yeah.
that out too.
We have big flyers, like at the school, we have like smaller ones,
I can go, actually, I can stop up there and get one.
okay, yeah, we have.
You know, I never saw the movie, my wife and I,
Oh.
my wife's seen it
Raw.
25 years ago. I've never seen it. I watched it Sunday because my friend here is Ursula, and I want to see what her part was like. And it's good, it's really good. I can't wait to see how she pulls off Ursula and how the lead, girl pulls off Ariel and Eric. So I'm really excited about it. Watch it. That concludes the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Solicitor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Since the last month, I've been working with the police chief on some employment-related matters, which I can't really talk about publicly, and some contract reviews and other items with the borough manager. Those are ongoing items. I'm always available to talk to council about those, but nothing of significance to report other than that. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Borough Engineer, we have, she was not here this meeting, she couldn't make it this meeting, she was at our workshop and was very influential, and we talked with her on several matters. So she was here, and just to make a statement to the public, we want you to really attend the workshops. They're more open, there's more questions that can be asked, there's more involvement. It's still the legislative meeting where we vote on stuff, but things are a little bit more open at the workshops where people can come and talk and ask questions. Okay?
Oh, Mr. President, can I have one more minute?
No. Sure, go ahead.
Matt Gergley contacted me, he's our new state rep. He, and him and I have kind of made an arrangement. He wants to come up here next Thursday, he may have some money we can put to some stuff. He mentioned $25,000, and maybe we can put to something. And next Thursday at 9 a.m. seemed to fit in for him.
Okay.
The legislator is off next week on their Easter holiday break.
Thursday at 9 a.m.?
Yeah, next Thursday, the 30th.
The 30th.
At 9 a.m. He will be coming up here, and we can meet with him, and it'll be his first visit to our new building, so we can give him the tour, and then we can have a little discussion
He
with
said
him
the 30th.
of what, with this money that he may have, what it can be used for.
Good, maybe it could be used for cleaning up the old municipal building.
We can put it towards the police car, which we're also in dire need of too.
So did we order a new police car?
We got a meeting today with a rep.
Okay.
We're not sure about leasing, or that was one of the questions, was leasing or just buying outright.
Okay.
So,
And
Do
he's-
they lease police cars?
yes,
Isn't it a lot more
there's interest,
interest?
yeah.
Since we don't have depreciation, the only value to a lease is cash flow, period. So. if-
Not necessarily,
Now-
just so you know, when we leased the vehicles in the past, once the lease is up, we kept the vehicles.
Mhm.
So there is,
If you decide to purchase them, and if you felt that that was a better deal, but traditionally leases are dealing with cash flow.
Not-
At the end of the lease.
not-
If you choose to buy the lease, that's a different story, that's a purchase.
no, you misunderstood what I said.
Please, tell me again.
We've leased vehicles in the past. Every other year, we would lease vehicles, correct?
We have in the past, yes.
Yes. And when the lease was up, we kept the cars, correct?
Yeah, at the end, you can buy it for $1.
So there was no, like if grandma leased her car and her lease was up, when the lease is done, you spend X amount of dollars what the value of the car is worth. On these leases, we would pay $1. So there was an advantage to the lease.
But at the end of the lease, do we have to get another
Pay more
vehicle?
money, it's cash flow.
What's that, buddy?
If we end up, after we pay $1 for it, are we just gonna buy another one, or are we just gonna use that one until it's
Well,
done?
we have used them in the past, and then leased again, and that's how we have 9 vehicles right now, probably.
At one time, Munhall used to buy a car every year. Two.
Every 2 years.
Mhm. And we've gotten out of that practice, and our cars are getting beat now.
We know that.
They're over 100,000 miles, and now we have a new problem with softball and baseball starting up, mainly softball. Our cars are getting a lot of dents in them. Assistant Chief Caterino, from what the chief has told me, is looking into talking to Ducar about buying some netting so our cars aren't getting beat up by foul balls.
Well,
Not only our cars, but our windows as well.
I think that the car shouldn't even be there. I think the car should be parked further down, and I think we should have an overhang of some sort built there to protect the cars and have them parked down there further.
Mr. President, that still doesn't protect our windows. There are baseball marks on our windows right now.
Let me think about that.
But like I said, Assistant Chief Caterino is talking to the Campbell Foundation about hopefully it'll work there where we can get some netting up there where we're not
Like
getting.
the 12 and unders or something, they'll hit a ball, foul.
Okay.
And not to extend the discussion, but Chief and I will be having the discussions as far as the finances, because there is a lot more detail than just a lease versus a buy. There are other implications, including Labuda, that we will come forward with recommendations for council based on what has been budgeted and approved by council for the purchase of the vehicles, as we've discussed over the past 6 months. And we'll be coming forward with recommendations in time for, if not before next month's meeting.
Okay, that's good.
So what are we considering with a lease? Considering a dollar buyout lease, or we?
Municipal lease, real quick, municipal leases can be anywhere from 1 to up to 5 years. They are a $1 buyout, and basically they are a way to bypass Labuda, but they're considered short-term debt. Instead of taking out a regular note on a vehicle, so in doing so, you also need to look at the borough's overall debt, the current interest rates, amongst other things. So in a sense, it is a cash flow issue versus paying cash, but in my experience, unless our solicitor has another opinion, a buyout lease such as these is basically a way of recategorizing the debt for the borough.
Agreed.
Okay. The borough has a borrowing limit on long-term debt.
I can't speak to borough finance, but I can talk to finance when it comes to IT leases, and we never have buyouts for $1 because
That's
the
common in
technology it commonly gets you in the same place you're at. That's what it gets you. You'd be better off to buy the vehicle outright than to pay the interest on top of that. All you're doing is you're just keeping the same problem going.
The chief and I will meet, go over the finances, go over the options that are available at this time, and
Certainly,
come
but
forward with
it's just, I
recommendations
mean,
for
it's
council.
obvious, so.
Okay, let's move forward. Dave, you have anything you'd like to talk about with the sewer authority?
No, actually, I don't have much to say. Nothing's going on too much. Jackie was here last at the workshop telling you some stuff.
Yep.
But everything's pretty much status quo. We're trying to get everything done up there in the building, the punch list out, and taking care of that.
Okay. Have we topped the $500,000 mark at the building yet?
Nope.
Oh, that's good. All right, so let's approve the minutes for February 21st, 2023 council meeting. I need a motion.
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye. We had Passive House here, Passive House PA here. So is there any public comments for items for consideration? I just want everyone to know that we're going to go through these, and I'm going to ask for a executive session meeting. I want to go through all the motions except for motion number 6. I'd like to go into executive session and speak about this with our solicitor, and then come back out and we can vote on this. We're not vote on it, and then we can go to any public comments, and we can end the meeting. So that's how the voting is hopefully going to go. So, any comments from the public? Okay, so let's make a motion to pay our bills for the period February 1, 2023 through February 28, 2023 as summarized, with the total being $307,413.18. I need a motion.
Motion. Comment.
Comment.
That total's wrong.
Okay.
It's actually $395,951.03.
95 what, Jay?
$395,951.03.
Okay.
I will believe that, but, which means that there's likely a typo somewhere in the numbers, because when I did it on the spreadsheet, it came out to the 307. So I am.
Just have it.
Yeah.
I checked.
No, I appreciate it. And in looking, take me a few moments, but if we want to table this, it is probably under the police.
Let's blame it on the police. Let's table this while Seth's working on this, and we'll come back to this vote. Motion to approve payroll for the period ending February 2nd to February 16th, with a total of $298,879.96.
Motion.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve the hiring of
Gabriella Watson.
Seth, can I just ask a question? Why, on number 3 and number 4, why don't we have the person's name in the agenda before we get there?
That's been my practice, otherwise normally it's just on the public agenda ahead of time would be motion to hire an administrative assistant, motion to hire a public works, anything can change right up until that moment, so and these need to be out ahead of time, so I tend not to put a name in there until it is time.
So who interviewed for this person?
Who conducted the interview?
Yes.
John Spinski and myself.
Okay. And no one from council interviewed?
No, sir.
Okay. And for the public works employee, who interviewed for that person?
Mr. Bicey and I interviewed. We do not have a candidate yet because they are still undergoing background checks.
Okay.
We thought we might have it by now.
So are we going to change our agenda for the same thing then that we did for the crossing guard?
I would ask that what is currently listed as motion 4 be tabled.
Okay.
This is a more extensive background check than we have done on public works folks in the past, so I want to see how it comes out before making any type of tentative approval.
Okay.
Or requesting approval.
All right, so let's strike motion number 4 from that.
Wasn't it I know in the past, as far as hiring somebody, council always did the hiring and firing.
And
So what happened to that?
I agree, that is what has been past practice. And that's why I asked the question, who interviewed and who interviewed? Because council is sort of not in this loop for hiring. We certainly support what our borough manager does.
Yeah, I'm not against that, it's just.
But I think council would like a little involvement.
I'll be more than happy to discuss that in executive session.
Okay. All right. Well,
Don't they work
I have
for
a
the borough
question.
manager?
We hired the borough manager
yeah,
to do a job,
yeah.
okay? This is a person that works directly for him. Why do we need to have members of council to do that?
Maybe
I
you
mean-
didn't hear what Mr. Bodadian said.
I did hear what
He
you
said in past practices, council hired,
Always did
interviewed, and fired.
That is true, that always happens. It's not interview. Why
Well,
does the
that's-
council
that's-
need to interview?
That's what
Why
he
do we have a
said.
borough manager?
I'm not talking about the interview, I'm talking about the hiring.
We're doing that.
That's
what
what
we're
this
doing
is.
now.
That's
We're
what,
doing
that's
it.
what these motions are.
I heard what he said. It wasn't
Okay.
interview.
Yeah.
So what,
So that
I'm
hasn't
just
changed.
asking a question. Why do we feel the need to have a borough manager that we pay every year, okay, to represent us, that can interview people, knows the qualifications, what he's looking for?
Mhm.
I mean, to me, I don't think we need members of council. We don't need to micromanage our borough manager.
That's not micromanaging.
That is
interviewing. Employees, here's a typical example.
Okay, I see what you said.
A typical example of hiring someone, no one even knows who we're hiring.
I trust the borough managers looked at resumes, figured out what people were qualified, what qualifications he's looking for the job to be done.
Okay.
Okay? That's why he should interview. If you would like to attend there, that's okay with me. I mean, I have hundreds of people work for me. I don't hire entry-level engineers.
So-
I have managers that
So
do
just,
that.
just so you know, if a councilman comes to me or woman and asks me, why aren't we interviewing? Why aren't we talking to these people? Why don't we know who they are? Why don't we know this or that? I think they come to me as president of council. I think I have the obligation to bring that matter up and talk about that. Don't you?
I think we should trust our borough manager.
I didn't say I didn't trust our borough manager.
Well, that's what you're.
Well, if I
I'm
was sitting
not
in that
implying
seat, I don't know
anything.
if I would agree with you.
I-
So let me just be to the point.
I'm not implying anything. You are.
I know.
So, where were we at?
Motion 3.
Motion 3. So are we, do I have a roll call vote for motion 3?
Is there a request, are you requesting a roll call vote? sir?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a moment.
No, we should have it on hiring, a roll call vote, I think.
Pardon me?
We should have a roll call vote on the hiring.
I
I
just,
think so.
okay. Is there something wrong with having a roll call vote?
He's saying you should, I'm just writing down the names because I was not prepared for a roll call.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm just asking for a motion. I didn't realize that we were gonna get so strenuous about it, but let's get strenuous about it here then. I'd like to have a roll call vote for it then. Call it out
Like I
there,
said,
Seth.
give me a moment to write down the names, I was
Thank
not
you.
prepared for that.
Wow. Tensions are high here tonight.
Are we jumping to that motion now, or are we doing it?
We're gonna do the motion right now.
1, 2, and 3.
Number 3 first.
Okay, just checking.
We did number 2, and we're gonna go back to number 1, because the numbers were wrong.
I didn't catch that on that.
Yeah.
And request for a roll call vote, we found the motion in a second, right? Which we have not received.
I thought someone made the motion.
I read the motion, but I never got a motion.
Yes, so I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're gonna do a roll call vote.
No, we did.
We didn't? We're not.
We just passed it.
Okay.
I said aye.
Unbelievable. Okay. Let's go to motion number 5, to exonerate Donna McCurry, tax collector, of $520,142 in uncollected 2020 property taxes. Question on the motion? Am I allowed to ask that?
Yes.
Is that a high number? Is that higher than the past years?
As we discussed last week, yes, it is slightly higher than prior years.
Right, and as we discussed it, I wanted to make it a public statement on record, because we're recording this, of that it is a little bit higher. Okay, so I need a motion.
Wait, question.
Yes, sir.
If we're gonna exonerate the tax collector,
Yes.
who's going after the
Legal.
Legal
Legal
tax.
It
tax?
goes to the legal tax.
Legal tax, oh,
Right.
okay.
The delinquent tax collector, that's who that is.
Thank you.
But, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but by law, we have to exonerate, Donna cannot collect delinquent taxes.
That's correct.
Cool.
Okay, so going back to motion number 5, I need a motion.
Motion.
Second.
A motion by Rainey, second by Dave. Sounds good. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, we ready to go back to motion number 1?
No, we are not, because I haven't been able to research it.
All right, so let's go back to motion to approve number 7, to approve the destruction of municipal records in accordance with the rules of the Pennsylvania Municipal Records Manual, including expired payroll and purchasing records. Any questions on the motion, council?
Yeah, question. Did anybody go through, Seth, did anybody go through those records and stuff, like, really, like,
Not yet, that is, there's the boxes that are down there, and that's what I asked for this, for the ones that meet those standards.
okay,
They'll be added to the pile that the chief has for destruction, and we'll get them all destroyed at once. with
cool.
money.
All right,
So,
thank
yes,
you,
this is an efficiency move.
thank you.
Okay, so,
Motion.
Second.
motion by Rich, second by Mr. Rondo. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so by our calculations, we're $95,000 discrepancy here.
Jason, I'm only asking, did you just like add those figures as they were there? And that's where you, okay, so I was gonna say, how did you get that figure? Thank you for looking at that.
While we're waiting for Seth, can we add Rob's motion?
Oh, yes, please.
Sure. So we need to add amend our agenda,
Need a motion to amend the agenda.
and what are we amending it for?
Add the crossing guard hiring.
That's right. So I need a motion to amend the the agenda for hiring a crossing guard. Motion by, motion by Kevin,
I second.
second by Rini. And,
We also need to add, based on the fact the hiring is that they pass their certs.
right, we don't.
So this is just to amend this first motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just amending the agenda, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now we need a vote,
Need a vote.
so now we need a vote to
amend the agenda.
amend the agenda, which we did, right? Or no,
No,
we
We just
didn't?
had the motions. when-
Okay, so now I need a motion,
We need a vote.
I need a vote to amend the
Motion.
We need a
No, we
vote.
have the motion to second, just call out.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, now someone needs to make that motion for the crossing guard.
Her name is Rhonda Toman, too. I guess you have to bring the name up,
All
right?
right,
Rhonda, R-H-O-N-D-A, Toman, T as in Tom, O-M-A-N.
Okay,
Motion to, I would heard.
I need a motion.
That's what he's asking for right now.
The mayor can't make the motion, but he can certainly
Motion.
give us our
I'll
name.
make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Mr. Rondo. I did hear you over there though, Dave.
That's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, any opposed? Okay.
So I'm gonna have to ask council to table number one until I can dig in deeper. There's definitely, part of it is absolutely the payroll, because when I took that out, it dropped it down significantly. But I
So-
can't match up to the numbers that I have at the moment.
I've asked if we should go into executive session to talk about this, but let's just do this right here in public. That way, the public can be involved and they can understand what's going on here as well. So this motion number 6, I have a question with, and it entails the sewer authority giving trunk lines to ALCOSAN. And all along, we've been told by the sewer authority that we cannot stop this. We have to give this to them. We have to sign off to give these trunk lines to ALCOSAN. But when the solicitor and the manager came here last week and spoke to us about this, I asked their attorney directly, I've told we have to give this to them. And he's most certainly told me in no uncertainties that we do not have to give this to them.
Well, we're talking about the authority.
The authority.
Right.
They do not have to give it to ALCOSAN, and they need us to sign off on it for them to release it to them.
I don't think that's true. I think they've already signed an agreement to transfer it to them. I think that's done. What they want us to sign off on is what this motion is about. It's giving them right of entry, because in order to service these trunk lines, which they have taken over or are taking over from our authority, they need to be able to access
Right-of-ways.
borough property.
Right-of-ways.
So, yes,
Right-of-ways.
exactly.
Right.
To be able to get in there.
And they did mention that.
Yeah.
But if I'm correct, counsel, did they or did they not say that we do not have to agree to that and we do not have to sign it over to them?
The right of way.
No, the trunk line, I believe.
I have in my notes, they said mandatory transfer.
No, I stood there and watched the man say, well, you don't necessarily have to do that. So I know what I heard.
Oh,
He
I know what I
did
wrote,
say
so-
that, but my further understanding is that the transfer is not required to be done. But I think the confusion, or not the confusion, the variance in the language is as far as who actually owns the trunk lines. To my understanding, the sewer authority, as a separate authority, owns the trunk lines, and they have signed over the trunk lines, which is what is being recommended and being considered all but required.
And
So that was their,
And just so I'm going to come out and make a statement. I don't trust what the sewer authority is telling us. The sewer authority told me one week that we're going to work with you and we're going to be in the building, and the next week they were buying a $450,000 project on Main Street. So what they tell me doesn't really hold any fire. I personally am not going to vote in favor of this, and I certainly have questions. And that's why I wanted to ask Greg what he thought about it. And I'm glad I'm doing it in public.
Yeah, as has been discussed, and I've said somewhat, the sewer authority owns those trunk lines. This is part of a huge project where ALCOSAN is taking ownership and control of these trunk lines, which some people think is a good thing. It relieves the local authorities from doing that. They're going to be responsible to pay for and maintain them. And these trunk lines have flows of sewage that go through many communities. So these same agreements you're seeing here and what's happening with the transfer of trunk lines is happening all over Allegheny County. It's part of a massive project to eliminate stormwater or sewage overflow from going into our rivers and so forth. So it's, a project's been going on for 20 years. So what you're seeing here, I've seen in many other communities. So I understand you don't like it and have some questions, but it is routine what's happening as part of this big scope of this project.
I'm not saying I don't like it.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that. And there are pluses to it.
right.
We don't know what the negatives are. We're not informed. And certainly, the sewer authority is in favor of it. They don't want to have the responsibility of it, but they've already made these, and just by what they told us, they've already made the improvements to these lines. They've already lined them. They're already great to go. So why get rid of them?
Because they're not 100% done.
So,
And that,
This is a council discussion.
there's multiple municipalities coming down through Ravine Street.
They're all multi-municipal. The only ones that can be given are multi-municipal.
I understand that.
Right.
But, talking to our solicitor and everything, it is in the borough's interest because they're out of our hands after that.
I understand that. And if you were here, and you were at the meeting, you saw it, and I asked them, are there going to be trunk line fees? Oh, no, there's not going to be trunk line fees. So, are there advantages to keeping it? We don't know
As
that.
far as I can see from being on the sewer authority, there's no advantages of keeping it.
Okay. We'll see.
That would just cost a very more money, wouldn't it, if we keep it?
Not if we sell it.
But who's gonna buy it?
Not if we sell the sewer authority.
Well,
Well, they're not gonna wanna buy the trunk lines.
it's a different subject altogether.
You don't know that. We don't know that.
Okay, I'll bring up, is this something that the people who are going to go to the conference in April, will they be talking to people from ALCOSAN? You know, if they
I don't know what's on the agenda.
ALCOSAN is on the
Yes,
agenda.
ALCOSAN's
will be there.
on Friday.
So maybe
Yes, I will be
our
there.
representatives could go, ask them those questions, bring it back.
It'll
and
be,
discuss
it's
it
too
with
late.
us.
It has to be done soon.
Why?
It's too late, because they want us to vote on it right now. And my question, and I didn't get to ask them, was, do we have to vote on this? You giving us a week? It's like coming in and saying, you know what? Vote on this or else. That's what it seems like to me, but
Because I was going to say, that would be a perfect conference question to go and find.
It certainly would be a
and
good
bring it back
question.
to us
That
because
doesn't mean
it's-
ALCOSAN's gonna tell you the truth either, if they're gonna make money.
ALCOSAN is the one that wants this.
they want, well,
Everyone's pushing
no,
this.
what their attorney said was that ALCOSAN really doesn't want it. Didn't he say that?
It's true.
He did say that, and as, you know, as the solicitor has been involved, I've been involved, actually, since coming here, I've not been involved in the sewer transactions because we have a sewer authority, but 3 years prior to that, I was. So I do have very good knowledge. Actually, where my gap in knowledge is because we have an authority, how does that change from having direct authority, which I did in my previous municipality. This has been ongoing. The questions that Rini is asking and that we're talking about were actually addressed years ago as the initial agreements were being done. Obviously, I'm not sure why, other than people being new on council, why some of that has not carried over or ever been communicated clearly to council. But what I heard from the sewer authority attorney during last week's meeting did fully match all of my other prior understandings from working with ALCOSAN and with my solicitor directly, as well as with a different borough engineer than we have here, that that ALCOSAN does not want these, but they're being forced to take it through the consent decree. And that B, part of it was that these repairs need to be made to a certain extent. And C, that it really is getting a liability off of the municipalities, whether or not it will pan out the way that they say, whether or not ALCOSAN will eventually increase fees beyond the 7% that they've committed to for the next number of years, is all unknown. But I think he said there may have been one or two that were holding out, I can't remember for sure, but for the most part of the, I believe, 83 communities, at least 80 are ready and are in those final stages of getting the paperwork together. The binders and the joinders that the sewer authority's already signed are actually just boilerplates where they insert M44 or the various trunk lines. They are not different, they are not negotiating separately with each municipality. This has been vetted by the DEP, by the Justice Department, by the EPA. If it's something that council wishes to fight or to not do, certainly can.
It's very.
That's my understanding is that.
I'm not arguing all those points that you mentioned, but when someone tells you, you cannot stop it, we have to give it to them. And then when I certainly asked their solicitor last week, as I'm sitting here, are we forced to sell this to you? And he says no. And you know he said no. So I questioned the whole thing.
He said that is still a legal question and that is probably a valid legal argument, but he also.
So council, we can do whatever we like.
And all this under the consent decree, that we have to do this?
No.
No,
I asked the gentleman, were you here last week?
no.
I sat there and I asked him, do we have to sell this? Do we have to give this over to our decree? Do we have to give this council, do we have to give this to ALCOSAN? And he said, no, we don't have to. That's all. I question that. That makes me question, like, well, really, what is really going on here then? And all the points that you make are true and valid. We're not going to have the responsibility for them. They're no longer going to be here. And one thing they did say that the Munhall takeover of these lines is going to be one of the largest ones in Allegheny County so far. So, you know.
So to answer your question, we heard one thing, I didn't hear that, but, okay, what would you like to do? I mean, would you like Greg to investigate that with their legal counsel right there to get the answer to the question?
Well, what I would think we would do is we would talk to the Pennsylvania American Water Company and the other company that wants to probably purchase the sewer authority, and ask them first, do you care if we give these lines away? What's your feeling of that? Do you want these lines? Are they an integral part of selling the place? They have a fund.
So why don't we just table that motion?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's possible
They
because
didn't mention any dates that were due.
I don't know that, and that's why I said, you know.
Why don't we have Greg reach out to their legal counsel
Yeah.
and get the answer to the question?
That's fine.
That seems like a reasonable way to address it. And, you know, as far as, you know, they did say, yes, we've made the repairs, okay? So if you were thinking on selling it, and let's just say this scenario, whether it can exist or not, I have no idea. But, okay, you have more to sell because you're not signing off, okay? Would that be worth more money? You would think it would be.
I don't know that. I don't know the answer to
Well,
that
if
question.
it wasn't, if they were repaired, okay, something in good shape is usually considered not to be a liability, but an asset. So if that's where you're going with it for the future sale, potentially, and by essentially signing on the dotted line and giving that away, if you believe it's an asset, not a liability, well, that would make sense. But why don't we have Greg talk to their legal counsel about
Well, I remember asking them about that we relined most of our sewers through there, and they said yes, but that doesn't mean they're in good shape. They're just relined. That doesn't mean they're not going to break and cause problems. I mean, there's a lot of them are old ass lines down there.
And a lot of them are too small to hold the flow of water that's coming in it right now. I believe.
So council, what's your wishes?
I'd like to see Greg talk with them and see what's up. And then also talk with the ALCOSAN.
Okay.
The other thing that they mentioned, because you were mentioning the size and line, to be a trunk sewer, it had to be 10 inches or greater, and it had to go through multiple municipalities.
Right.
That's what they said.
Correct.
Okay? There was the piece around liability, but that was right away only, okay?
Correct.
As the ability to go on. It wasn't, we were liable handing them a sewer that was broken. They were
Correct.
essentially saying, yes, we will take this.
Correct.
Okay?
I understood what he said.
So, if you, I think right there, to answer the question, there was no deadline, that would make sense.
So let's do this.
I know them trunk lines are pretty big down there. I'm not exactly sure, but I do remember them talking about, I think they're like a 20-inch line, 24-inch line.
Ravine Street?
Yeah, underneath that creek, yeah.
About that.
Well, if something happens to them, then if we don't do this, then it'll be our responsibility.
We gotta pay for it. Correct. That's a big ass,
Well, that's what I'm
Bill.
talking about.
So why don't we do
excuse my
this?
French, sorry people.
Why don't we have Greg, speak to their solicitor and ask them if there's a deadline on this? And then why don't we reach out and speak to a couple potential people to find out, is there a difference? Are they indeed an asset or are they not an asset? And it should be pretty quick, a pretty quick answer, yes or no. They are or they aren't. And if they're not, if it doesn't really matter if we're selling the sewer authority or not, if it doesn't change the value, then there's no reason to keep them.
Why don't we just vote on this and see if there's who votes yes or no, see if it passes or it don't pass.
So why don't we just do this? Why don't we just
Why don't we
Let
just have an
Greg-
executive session after that we find out this is a meeting, and we can vote on it right then?
Well, why don't we let
Special meeting,
Greg do what he has to do,
right?
which shouldn't take long. Being that it was already discussed, and it's already on tape, on film, find out, get the information from Greg. Greg, would we be able to vote on this like a phone vote? Because it was already discussed in public.
Well, you can do phone votes and then ratify them later when there's something is urgent. There has to be a true urgency to vote on it before the regularly scheduled meetings.
Okay.
I don't know that exists with this.
Okay.
We don't know if there's a deadline.
Yeah, I think if there was, we would have been told.
Okay?
But they did say that, I do remember that gentleman saying that if we didn't give them the trunk lines, they don't care, they'll just go somewhere else.
Right.
So why don't we have, let's go on, carry on with the meeting, then after the meeting, have an executive session.
No, we're had our meeting right now. We're not having an executive session.
Okay.
We're done. We're done with it. We're gonna decide what we're gonna do, with the public's here, we're here, we're discussing it, let's get it done.
I thought we just said we wanted Greg to reach out to their
We do.
attorney.
Right.
So we're tabling the motion.
Right, for now. And if it becomes an urgent matter that we have to vote on it, we can have an in-person vote, we can all meet and have a special meeting for it, or we can do a phone vote. If it's urgent.
I doubt it's urgent before next month's meeting.
Okay.
I just can't imagine that.
Well, let's, and that gives us time to investigate and
Yeah.
see if it's worth our endeavor to keep them or not. And if that's council's wishes.
Can I make a request for Dave, since he represents us on the sewer authority? The actual trunk lines that they repaired, could we have them put together what the actual costs that they spent and what they did?
Yeah.
I think that will answer, also the length right there will answer it, so, I don't know, we'll just make up some numbers. Okay, we have 3 lines, we have 3,000 feet. Okay, we did 100 feet of each line.
Possibly, right.
We don't know that.
We don't know anything.
So that's a reasonable question. Get that, have Greg get some answers there.
I think I did ask Jackie last, at the meeting,
I did ask that.
and she said that 90% of them were relined.
I would find that hard to believe, but that's good.
Just the trunks.
Yeah. That's good.
I'll find out. I'll talk to her, tell her to prepare so we can have it.
Yeah, I don't think we're informed enough to vote on this, to be honest with you.
And I think those who are going to the conference ought to ask some questions, being that there's supposed to be a lot of people up there, a lot of different communities. Get their input. Share with us when you come back next month and tell us. That's my thought.
We can do that.
Good. Okay then. I still don't feel comfortable not paying our bills here though, Seth.
Okay, so while you were having that discussion, I was able to find the error. It was that payroll and the like were not removed from the police. The actual number for the police is $54,911.14, not the $146,448.99, and the $307,413.18 was the correct number.
Good.
So what's the new police number, Seth?
$54,911.14.
And then it ticks and ties now.
Yes.
So we can approve that, correct?
We can vote on it. So I need a motion for, motion number 1.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? All right, motion passes. Okay, any additional items, council? I'm gonna do that.
I would like to ask one thing, Rick, another thing. The police department at our workshop last week mentioned about, in his report, about Planet for the scheduling and that.
Yes.
And what that is it's a company that does the police scheduling of officers, takes care of their sick day, vacation day, holidays, all of that paperwork. And that's entered into a system. I did mention it at the last meeting, and said we don't need that. I would like to have some input about that, because I think it's good to know who's calling off, who's taking time, who's recording it, is it being done? And even though I think people are good, it seems like computers are doing better. So I'm just saying, maybe we got to consider that for all our other employees, to keep track of their sick days, holidays. I know you don't have their scheduling.
Rainey, I think you misunderstood and slightly mischaracterized what I was getting at.
Okay.
We do track it, everything is tracked through the payroll system. So, there are still manual timesheets that get signed off. And if somebody marks as a vacation day, and I'll use Public Works as the example. A laborer takes a vacation day. Mr. Bicey approves it or disapproves it. When he sees the timesheet, if it matches up, he signs off on it. We then review it in our office, it gets marked into the payroll system. We can run reports, and I can tell you exactly who's taken how many days off, what their call-offs are. We are tracking electronically all of that.
Okay.
It is really, that's why, to do it through another system is strictly redundant. It is not the Wild West for attendance.
I think there's another piece that Tom runs a 7x24 operation, which is much different than running something that's Monday through Friday. So he has much more planning to do itself. And these systems are typically called workforce management systems. They're used in police departments, call centers, all across the world. It's typical stuff.
Okay, any other council input, any other council questions? Anything else for council? Mr. Rondo, you said you had something?
Yeah, under public comment. Last week on Tuesday, Michelle Fisher had her first scheduled, and I had mentioned this before, veterans thing. actually, it's upstairs where, she's here to guide veterans through their, you know, through the VA program, which is it's a basic nightmare. I did come down, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to sit here with her because somebody's going to come in and he's going to be talking personal stuff. So I came down and I, you know, just to say, okay, you know what, I'm here, or, you know, whatever. But there was people when I left and Rich came down and he said there was somebody after that came down, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, what I did notice is it wasn't advertised. So I guess because of word of mouth from me and Rich, that's why we had a couple of guys show up. It would be nice if we could advertise this, you know, which is like a veterans outreach, again, to navigate through the VA system. If we could do it on our borough website, the mayor's website, the community website, Munhall Cares website. And I do know that Senator Brewster's office says that they would do it too. So this just isn't a local thing, like, you know, Munhall, Homestead, West Homestead. This is who veterans, whoever wants to come and needs some help. So if we could all like get together and basically advertise this on.
As soon as Ms. Fisher gets me the paperwork that she promised me a month ago.
I will, you should have told me that, I would already have it.
If you had asked me, I would have, sir.
Yeah,
I
well,
reminded her when she left again, that if she needs it advertised, I need
I
something.
will talk with her, I will speak with her tomorrow, but like I said, it's a pretty good thing. I know that she helped me a lot, so, it's a pretty good thing, so.
That's one thing, I seen, kind of a little faulty of what was going on. I think, you know, people can come, but she should have a separate room where she can talk,
To discuss,
to discuss with people, on a one-on-one basis without everybody listening to what they're saying.
correct. Yeah, that's the reason why, I told you, that's the reason why I left, because I don't want to hear what, you know, somebody else, you know, what their problem is, so. Okay, thank you.
I'll share it on the website. It should be probably uniform, whatever the announcement is it should all be the same
Well,
on
that's why we're waiting.
the borough
I will get-
website.
That's why we're waiting for whatever
I
she
will
wants
get
to
her,
provide.
yeah, I will get her to do something, you know, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay,
cool.
so at this time, any public comments, anything from the public they'd like to speak about?
Rick, can I make one comment, please?
Sure.
Seth, is it possible you are $3,000 off? Well,
It's, anything at this point is possible,
Yeah.
because I will also,
you're
and I'm,
exactly $3,000 off right now.
Yeah.
So if it was 62, 9, 11, 14, we'd be good. Instead of 59.
Oh, we have to
no,
change that.
54.
54.
Yep, which puts it,
That's, okay, so that's what I meant. If it's 57, you'd be good. But add it up 3 ways and come up with 304.
We did vote on it.
13. I know, we did, and that's why I was like, oh man. That's why I'm bringing it up now, in case that's a problem.
No, we did not.
No, we're talking about the bills.
No, I'm not talking about the
I
bills.
thought you were talking about the bills, bro. That's what Jason's talking about.
I know what Jason's talking about, that's not what.
I'll ask him. Relax, guys. You guys are all fired up. Can't ask a question. The clock fell.
now we took it down for the voting.
Huh? No, I have to ask Seth a question, then we could be adjourned. Did we vote on motion number 3?
Yes.
We did. We voted on it.
Yeah.
We did vote on it. Yes, we did. I know we did. You missed it. You voted for it,
I
yeah.
must have been in the other room.
No, you were here.
It was unanimous.
It was unanimous.
Well, who made a motion?
Motion.
Kevin and Rich.
Actually, Kevin, you made this second.
Wow.
There you
I
go.
must have been in the other room.
You made the motion from the other room.
Yeah, they didn't do that.
Do we need to tabulate this right now, or can we call it a night?
Now, I see where it's coming up, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, probably deleted something extra, that the 57,911 should be in there. Again, I am, in pulling stuff, I am confident on the 311,413.
Okay.
That much I can absolutely tell you.
And we're confident in you as well, just so you know. I need a motion to adjourn.
To executive session.
No, there's no executive session.
You're not holding
Motion.
one on the additional?
Oh, yes, we do have an executive session, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. We have another motion we want to talk about. So we're going to make it a motion to adjourn the meeting to an executive session.
Motion.
And then the meeting will be ended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.